On today's NASM-CPT Podcast with me, Richey, I explore to stomp or not to stomp. What am I talking about? When you lift those weights, you Olympic weightlifters, we explore some of the strength coaches and why it is that they don't like the stomping. And we'll explore why some coaches swear it's the only way to go. And then I'm going to lose you all for a few minutes while I use a mathematical formula to talk about impact forces. Snooze. And then I bring it back with excitement, which is a questionable take on how stomping for performance athletes may not be the best, but why it may be good for the elderly. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. Now here's the episode. To stomp or not to stomp?
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, winner of the Sharecare Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and today I propose the question, to stomp or not to stomp? That is the question, whether the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. No, to stomp or not to stomp. And y'all know what I'm talking about, right? You hear people doing their Olympic weightlifting, and I don't know, maybe they're doing cleans, or maybe they're doing a snatch, maybe doing a clean and jerk, and they are just smacking the ground harder sometimes than they need to be. Or is it? So today I'm going to just explore a little bit, like, do you need to stomp? Or is that just the sound of landing? So here, let's just talk about this for a little bit. We're going to talk, I guess, let's do a little pro and con here. So let's start with, what is a case for people to actually not stomp? And I'm going to say that cue has really gotten some frowns by some strength coaches, performance coaches lately that teach weightlifters. They think that it teach weightlifters to do what's called a donkey kick, which is basically just like over stomping. And it causes them to raise their feet too far up the platform just so they get the sound of the stomp. And the purpose of the stomp should have more than just, hey, listen to me do it. I am landing this well because of the sound of my feet hitting the platform. So I will say, for the most part, elevation like that, where you're leaving the platform, that can be unnecessary. It can be incredibly inefficient. And it is oftentimes referred to what we call wasting energy. So there's that, right? So you are pulling up, but remember, if you pull up just so you can raise your feet off the platform and stomp hard, then what is the purpose of raising up that high if you don't need to? When you're lifting heavy weights, let's be honest, when you're lifting heavy weights, anytime you're lifting more than you need to, that's more than you need to, it's a waste. Also, some people stomp hard, and just stick with me on this, because they want to sound like they're a top weightlifter. And when you lift heavy weights, that's just what catching the weight sounds like. That's what it sounds like. But if you're not lifting heavy, if you're doing even the training bar and you're hearing people stomp and they're stomping hard, it's a purposeful stomp. It's not because they are catching heavy weight. It's because that's what they think they're supposed to do. Now, let's also say this. Some strength coaches swear by the stomp. But I'm going to say this. I think hard stomps, this is something to be aware of. Hard stomps are going to limit your stretch shortening cycle. But there are some reasons that it might happen. Because some people do it, it's going to increase proprioception. It increases the stability of catching a heavy bar. And I think that's important. So we can talk about those as some of the reasons why they do it, increasing maybe a little proprioception, increasing stability of catching a heavy bar. So, and let me explain it like this. Have you ever done squats and felt your weight shift to the ball of your feet? Like, oh, the weight's getting top heavy, forward heavy. And that can happen in Olympic lifts as well. And so one of the things about doing a full foot flat stomp is it keeps the bar close to you. So it keeps the bar from translating forward, and it allows you to be able to land in a flat foot. So you are less likely to do that little forward lean. So there's a reason for that. But I'll also say this. One of the reasons that some strength and conditioning coaches have you stomp is to stimulate muscle. And I will be happy to talk about that more after this. This episode of the NASM-CPT Podcast is brought to you by NASM-1, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients. Enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access to free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM-1. All right, so let's talk about this. Before I get into the weightlifting version of this, or like the Olympic lifting, let me just do this in terms of like a box jump, right? And not a jump up, but a jump down. And so I want to measure energy. I'm going to turn that energy into newtons, and then I'm going to turn newtons into pounds and kilograms, so we have an idea of what's going on here. So I'm going to take, let's say, energy. So here's the equation. Energy equals mass times gravity times height, or the height at which you drop from. So let's say that you're 70 kilograms. That's 150 pounds. So your mass is 70 kg. And it doesn't matter. You can do kg, you can do pounds, doesn't matter. And then you're going to multiply that times 9.8 meters per second squared. And then you're going to do the height probably in centimeters, because the height is in meters. So if I do this and say, let's jump from a 20-inch box, or 50 centimeters, that's half a meter. So I'm then going to multiply that times 0.5. So I get 70 times 9.8 meters per second squared times 0.5 meters. So my energy produced upon landing is 343 units of energy here. So what I now have to do is I say, well, when I land, I absorb the force where I displace my head, my body drops, I absorb force. Let's say I absorb that force by dropping 30 centimeters or 15 inches. So if you kind of look at something on the wall and you drop down into the athletic ready position, or absorb into a squat position from a landing, that's about, we're going to say we'll displace about 12 inches. All right. So that 12 inches is 30 centimeters. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take 343 as my unit of energy, divide it by 0.3, and that's going to give me 1,143 newtons. So if I absorb 12 inches and I weigh 150 pounds, I don't, but we're just doing hypothetical, make my numbers easier, then my actual impact weight is 256 pounds if I absorb that for 12 inches. But what if instead of offsetting 30 centimeters, I land hard and I only absorb 10 centimeters instead of 30? Then I can take that 10 centimeters, and instead of absorbing where I drop into my position 30 centimeters or 12 inches, I drop 10 centimeters, which is like, 5 inches. That weight, that impact weight, goes from hitting the ground at 256 pounds to 726 pounds. That's crazy. 116 kg at 30 centimeters, or landing at 329 kg if you only absorb for 10 centimeters. So one of the reasons that people hard stomp, or people land hard when they jump off of something, is in order to have a greater impact force, what is called the average impact force. And so that average impact force can be really elevated, but it can also be bad for you in some ways. How? Well, if you don't use your muscles to absorb. So instead of bending at the knees and bending at the hips and landing on the ball of your foot when you jump off of the platform, if you land straight like a jackhammer hitting into a ground, then that is going to be all impact up your spine. And that doesn't help your muscles very much, but it does do something for your spine, and it ain't good. So this is why some of the people do the hard stomps in their landings, because they can increase their impact force. They increase the stimulation to their muscles. But if you hard stomp while you're lifting heavy, then the people who lift heavy weights they don't hard stomp usually. The elite lifters don't hard stomp usually. They just catch it. Now, why? Why do some people catch it, and why does it make noise? All right, so let's talk about this. For weightlifting, I don't mind so much if you do that harder landing because you're looking to increase the stimulus. I don't mind it. However, when it comes to performance, you can train impacts like jump downs and feet stomps and things like that. You can do that. But you also have to train elastically as well. You have to train by absorbing and rebounding force. And when you stomp, you cannot rebound force. So use this as just trial it. Try running up a set of stairs as quickly as possible while stomping each stair you go up. And you're going to be incredibly, or at least significantly slow compared to what you would be if you just did an absorption. You didn't hear the lands on the steps and you just bounded up the stairs. And the reason that is because you have a stretch shortening cycle. But when you don't stretch, when you hard stop, there's not enough stretch there. There's not enough build of potential energy to turn into kinetic energy. So when you turn that into performance, now some people are just Olympic lifters and they like the stomp, they like the stability. Again, you hard stomp and you feel the floor and you're holding a heavy weight, like that can give you comfort. But when you translate that to performance, I don't mind if you do a hard landing off of a box, as long as you also practice a soft landing. Because you do a hard landing and then try to do a rebound jump after a hard landing, you ain't going anywhere. You're not going very high. But if you absorb and then jump, then you've now taken that stretch shortening cycle, and now your follow-up jump, your subsequent jump from the landing is going to be much more impressive. I will tell you another group, a group that I like stomping for, and this isn't even weightlifting related, it is the elderly. If I have an elderly person and their balance is getting a little bit poor and they've got bone mineral density issues and I can't get them to lift heavy weights because their body don't lift heavy things, then I will either have them, depending on their ability to do this, just do stomps as if they're doing a weight lift, right? So you just pick the feet up and stomp down to get stimulus to the muscle. That's going to stimulate their muscle with a brief moment of really elevated weight, more than any weight that they would actually do while lifting weights. And then I also will have people stomp one leg at a time, just stomping hard, one leg, really hitting the ground, get a nice little reverb up the body. Because I want to see the leg muscle kind of shake a little bit when they stomp. And I had a guy that I trained. He's moved away, unfortunately. He is 93 years old, and I trained him until he moved away almost a year ago for about 8 or 9 years. And as lifting got harder and balance got more challenging, we stomped. And at first he really didn't like it. He didn't think it was doing anything. But then I try to explain it to him. The impact force of a stomp is more than the weight that you would lift. We're going to stomp with your knee, You have to keep your knee bent. You don't want to hyperextend your knee. All of these wonderful things that are going to allow you. And then you're going to stomp with your knee bent more than it usually is. You're going to stomp with your knee without an excessive bend. So we're stimulating the muscle at different ranges of motion just to increase both bone mineral density, or at least stimulation of the bone, and also stimulating the muscle. I think this is a great use of it. What do you think about stomping? I think that you can stomp, but I don't think that you have to. When it comes to Olympic lifting, do you have to stomp? No. Do you have coaches who are going to swear by it? Absolutely. Are you going to have coaches that are going to say it's totally unnecessary? Absolutely. Absolutely. People are not a monolith when it comes to this. And some people are going to listen to this and say, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're saying. I do, because there are strength coaches that are renowned that hold really strong positions one way or the other. And there are a lot of renowned coaches that don't hold a strong position one way or the other. You can, you can't, doesn't matter to them as long as you do what? Successfully lift the weight. So you do you. You do you. But I will say this, if we're trying to translate that to sports performance, then you can't sports performance with the stomping alone. You do have to absorb and produce force. And again, some of that hard stomp sound that you hear from the elites is because that's what it sounds like when you catch really heavy weight. But you can coach it, you cannot coach it, you can do it, you cannot do it. To stomp or not to stomp, that is up to you as a strength coach, or up to you and your strength coach, unless one way hurts more than the other. And if you find that you're doing something and that hurts you, then you just got to do whatever that other thing is. All right. Y'all, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And thanks to our producer, Eric Sorensen. I'm going to say like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family, and leave a 5-star review. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so. Hit me up on Instagram at dr.rickrichey, or email me, rick.richey@nasm.org. Y'all keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM-CPT Podcast.